Inflation is biting into absolutely everyone's wallet right now. Like, you feel it at the grocery store, you feel it at the gas pump, and, well, if you're living on a fixed income, you really feel it.
Oh, absolutely. It's brutal.
It is. But if you are a veteran, a surviving spouse, or a military retiree, there's a very specific high-stakes landscape right now regarding your compensation. We're looking at multiple different avenues for pay increases coming down the pike.
Yeah, and here's the really critical part for you to understand.
Yeah.
Some of these are practically guaranteed to hit your bank account soon, while others are locked in this fierce, really complex congressional battle over funding.
Right, and understanding the difference between those two categories and knowing the exact timelines of when they happen is absolutely critical for you to plan your financial future.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Veteran Briefing.
It really is a critical time to be paying attention. I mean, when we look at the landscape of veteran benefits right now, the sheer volume of moving parts can be honestly incredibly overwhelming for families.
Oh, for sure. You've got different effective dates, varying qualifying criteria, and entirely different legislative hurdles depending on which specific benefit we're analyzing.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are going to break down these potential pay adjustments and separate the guaranteed facts from the pending legislation.
Because that separation is so important right now.
It really is. We also need to decode the timelines because an October 1st effective date creates a completely different planning scenario than a December 1st effective date. And we're going to do all of this without any political spin or sensationalism, just, the underlying mechanisms so you know exactly how this works and what to expect.
I think the best place to build that understanding is by looking at the foundation, which is the guaranteed adjustments. These are the changes directly tied to the Social Security Administration's cost of living adjustment, or commonly known as CAREL.
Really?
But the mechanism behind how this actually applies to veterans is often misunderstood. I mean, the Department of Veterans Affairs doesn't just sit in a room, calculate the inflation rate, and unilaterally decide to apply a cost of living adjustment on its own every year.
Wait, really? So they don't have the authority to just adjust the rates based on their own internal economic data?
No, they don't. And there is a really good historical reason for that. It removes the temptation to politicize veteran compensation rates year over year.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Instead, legislation has to be put in place that creates the opportunity for the VA to simply mirror the Social Security Administration's COLA. So the SSA uses a very specific inflation metric tied to consumer prices to determine their annual adjustment.
Okay, so they do the math.
Exactly. And once the SSA announces their official COA percentage and sets that effective date for December 1st, the VA adopts that exact same percentage. They then apply it across several very specific benefit categories to make sure veterans aren't losing their purchasing power.
I want to unpack what categories are actually impacted by that December 1st adjustment because, it touches far more than just a single monthly check.
It casts a really wide net. The most prominent one, and the one on most people's minds, is standard VA disability compensation. That baseline monthly payment will see the adjustment.
Right.
But it also directly impacts dependency and indemnity compensation, or DIC, which is the foundational benefit for surviving spouses and dependents. Beyond that, it increases special monthly compensation, or SMC.
Let's pause on SMC for a second because that is a vital program for our most severely injured veterans.
It is. SMC is designed to provide additional financial support for veterans with specific, often more severe disabilities that go beyond the standard rating schedule.
Like, what kind of needs are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about veterans who might require specialized transportation, or perhaps they need regular aid and attendance from a caregiver just to navigate daily life. Okay. The costs associated with those needs rise with inflation just like groceries do, so SMC gets the CLA bump as well. And finally, the fourth major category impacted here is the annual clothing allowance.
Okay, I have to jump in right there on the clothing allowance because there is a massive, incredibly time-sensitive detail we need to highlight for you. This isn't an automatic trigger for everyone.
No, definitely not.
If you rely on prosthetic or orthopedic devices, or perhaps you use specific skin medications for a service-connected condition that permanently damages your clothing, you are likely eligible for this allowance, but you have a strict filing deadline of August 1st.
The timing there really cannot be overstated.
You do not want to miss that window. Imagine a veteran whose prosthetic leg causes intense wear and tear on their trousers. They're spending their own money to constantly replace their wardrobe.
Right, which gets expensive.
Exactly. This allowance exists to offset that specific financial burden. Since the allowance itself is getting the CLA bump, missing that August 1st deadline means you're leaving vital inflation-adjusted money on the table.
Timelines really are everything with these administrative processes. Now that covers the disability side of the guaranteed adjustments. The other major area tied to this December 1st COLA is the VA pension.
We definitely need to clarify what the pension is because, in normal conversation, people use pension and military retirement interchangeably, and they are vastly different things.
Well, they are completely separate programs with entirely different qualifications.
Yeah.
Military retirement is earned through longevity, typically 20 years of service, or through medical retirement.
Right.
The VA pension, on the other hand, is specifically designed as a safety net. It is a needs-based program for lower-income wartime veterans and their surviving spouses.
And needs-based means there are strict income and net worth limits to qualify.
That's the threshold.
Yeah.
But there is also a very common, persistent misconception about the word wartime in the eligibility criteria. A lot of people self-select out of applying because they assume that to be a wartime veteran, they must have actively deployed to a combat theater and taken fire during a war.
Which excludes a massive portion of the people who served during those eras.
It does, and it's factually incorrect for this benefit. Wartime, in the context of the VA pension, simply means the veteran served at least one day of active duty during an officially designated war period.
So, how would that work in practice?
Let's look at the Vietnam era, for example. You could have been stationed entirely in Germany or South Korea in 1969. You never set foot in Vietnam.
Okay.
However, because you served on active duty during the designated dates of that conflict period, you legally meet the wartime criteria for the pension.
That is such a vital clarification because so many veterans assume they haven't earned something simply because of confusing bureaucratic terminology.
Exactly.
Speaking of terminology, I want to push back gently on this word increase. I know the headlines always say pay increases, but a lot of veterans get really frustrated by that phrasing when it comes to COLA.
Yeah, it feels like a misnomer to them, almost like the government is claiming it's giving them a raise.
Right. It's not a promotion. It's not a performance bonus for a job well done. Think of it this way. It's like putting a patch on a leaky tire just to keep the air pressure the same as you drive down the highway.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's an adjustment designed strictly to fight the erosion of your purchasing power. If rent goes up and groceries go up, this adjustment just keeps your head above water. But, practically speaking, when you log into your banking app, it does mean a higher physical dollar amount is going to be deposited every month. So while academically it's a cost of living adjustment, functionally you have to budget for a larger cash flow.
That's a very fair and necessary distinction. The December 1st COLA adjustments, whether for disability, DIC, SMC, or the pension, are all about maintaining your baseline standard of living.
Yeah.
But the landscape of veteran benefits isn't just about playing defense against inflation. There are entirely different programs meant to actively build a family's future, focusing on forward momentum, and those operate on a completely different calendar.
Which brings us to the education and training benefits. This shifts us away from the end of the year. We are looking at a much faster timeline here, with adjustments happening on October 1st.
Right. And the major one to watch here is Chapter 35, formerly known as DEA, or Dependent Education Assistance.
Okay, break that down for us.
This is a targeted educational benefit specifically for the spouses and dependents of veterans who are rated at 100% permanent and total, or P&T.
This is arguably one of the most powerful benefits available to a military family because it can fundamentally change the financial trajectory of the next generation.
It absolutely can. Currently, the monthly payments for full-time enrollment sit at nearly $1,600 per month. That rate is going to adjust upward on October 1st to align with the new academic year.
Nice.
The VA usually announces the exact new figure in September. But the fascinating nuance here, and one that frequently catches families off guard, is how this scales.
Yeah.
You can have multiple dependents utilizing this benefit at the exact same time.
Wait, really? So it's not a shared pot of money that the family has to split up?
Not at all. It is an individual entitlement for each qualifying dependent. Let's run a hypothetical scenario. You are a 100% P&T veteran. You have a spouse who decides to go back to school to finish their degree, and you have 2 children who are currently of college age.
Okay, I'm with you.
If all three of them enroll full-time in approved programs, all three of them draw that monthly stipend simultaneously. You are looking at three separate deposits of around $1,600 hitting your household every single month they are in school.
Okay, I have to stop you right there and offer a massive clarification, because this is where I see families fall into a disastrous pitfall with Chapter 35.
Oh, the payment routing. Yes.
Yes, you hear $1,600 a month per dependent, and you naturally assume the university tuition is covered. But here's the catch. The VA pays this money directly to the beneficiary. They deposit it straight into the student's personal bank account, not the school's financial aid office.
Which is a stark contrast to how the post-9/11 GI Bill operates, where the VA pays the school directly.
A complete contrast. If your 19-year-old college freshman sees a direct deposit of $1,600 a month drop into their checking account, and they think this is just pizza and spending money, they're going to be in for a very rude awakening when the actual tuition bill from the university comes due.
That is a painful lesson to learn the hard way.
It really is. You, as the family or the student themselves, are legally responsible for turning around and paying the school out of those funds. So yes, the payment rate is adjusting upward on October 1st, but you have to sit down and actively budget it correctly.
A very necessary warning. Communication within the family is essential to make sure those funds are allocated properly. Now, moving to the other program that follows that faster October 1st timeline, VR&E. This stands for Veterans Readiness and Employment.
A lot of folks out there might still know it by its old name, vocational rehab.
Right, exactly. The core mission remains the same, though. For veterans who have service-connected disabilities that limit their ability to work, VR&E provides approved education or training programs to help them reskill or get a degree.
Okay, and how does the pay adjustment fit in here?
Well, while they are actively participating in that training, they receive a monthly subsistence allowance to help cover their basic living expenses. Just like Chapter 35, that monthly subsistence allowance is tied to the academic calendar, meaning it's on an October 1st adjustment cycle.
Ah, I see.
So veterans participating in VR&E will see that upward adjustment well before the end of the calendar year.
So if we step back and look at the whole picture we've painted so far, the disability CLA, the pension CLA, Chapter 35, and VR&E, these mechanisms are locked in, like the administrative gears are already turning.
Yes, those are moving forward.
But there is a completely different category of potential pay adjustments. We are talking about massive, life-changing amounts of money for veterans, and they are currently completely stalled in Washington. We need to talk about what they are, and more importantly, why they are stuck.
It's a complicated situation for sure.
It is. If you're finding these discussions helpful, please subscribe to Veteran Briefing so you never miss important updates and practical information for veterans and their families.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears from the guaranteed adjustments to the legislative battles. We have 3 major proposals pending. Let's tackle the most hotly debated one first.
That would be the Major Richard Starr Act. We really want to emphasize to anyone listening, this requires congressional action. It is a proposed bill. It is not yet law.
Right. Very important distinction.
But if passed, it addresses one of the most contentious issues in military retirement, often referred to as the wounded warrior tax.
This one makes a lot of people's blood boil. Walk us through how a veteran actually loses money here, because the mechanics of it seem entirely punitive.
It stems from a very old, archaic legal concept surrounding federal compensation. Basically a rule against double dipping from the federal treasury.
Okay, double dipping.
Currently, there is a statute that requires many medically retired veterans, specifically those who were forced to retire early due to combat-related disabilities, to waive a portion of their military retired pay in order to receive their VA disability compensation.
So they just lose it.
It is a literal dollar-for-dollar offset. Imagine a medically retired sergeant. They earn a $2,000 monthly pension from the Department of Defense for their years of service. But they also sustain combat injuries, and the VA rates them for $1,500 in disability compensation.
Okay, so you'd think they get $3,500 total.
You would think that. But under current law, that veteran doesn't get $3,500. They have to forfeit $1,500 of their earned DoD pension just to receive the VA disability check.
Which feels entirely unfair because they are fundamentally different pots of money. I mean, the pension was earned through years of labor and service to the Department of Defense. The disability compensation is essentially an insurance payout for bodily harm sustained during that service.
They are meant to serve 2 entirely different purposes, yet the current law treats them as redundant. The Major Richard Starr Act is a broadly supported bipartisan bill that would completely eliminate this offset for qualifying combat-injured veterans.
That would be huge.
For the individuals affected by this, passing this bill wouldn't just be a small cost-of-living patch. It could restore hundreds, or in many cases, thousands of dollars a month to their household income. It is a structural correction.
It's a huge structural correction, and it has bipartisan support. Both sides of the aisle agree it's the right thing to do. So if everyone agrees, why is it stalled?
Funding. It always comes down to funding.
Right. Well, before we dive into the funding roadblocks, let's put the other two stalled proposals on the table so we can understand the sheer scope of what Congress is wrestling with. What's the next major proposal?
The next one is the Catastrophically Injured Veterans expansion. This is a key provision within a larger piece of proposed legislation called the Sher-Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act.
Okay, and what does this one do?
If passed, this would add a flat $10,000 per year, which breaks down to about $833 per month, directly into the pockets of the most severely catastrophically disabled veterans.
Why a flat amount instead of a percentage increase like the CLLA?
Because profound catastrophic injuries come with fixed, immense, and ongoing costs that standard percentage increases just don't adequately cover. We're talking about veterans who may need to constantly retrofit their homes for accessibility or require intensive specialized care regimens that drain family resources. This flat $10,000 is designed to acknowledge and offset the unique financial burden of living with profound service-connected injuries.
And the final stalled proposal is tied to that exact same expansion act, correct?
Yes, the final piece is a legislative structural boost to DIC, the dependency and indemnity compensation for survivors we discussed earlier.
Right, the survivor benefit.
Exactly. This proposal wouldn't just give survivors the standard annual KIOLE patch. It aims to raise the fundamental baseline of the benefit. It proposes giving survivors an additional 1% bump on top of KIOLE in the first year it's enacted, and then another 0.5% boost in the second year.
Why step it out over 2 years like that? Why not all at once?
It's a pragmatic way to ease the immediate impact on the federal budget. By tiering it, it softens the blow to the ledger while still achieving a permanent structural increase to the base rate of survivor benefits over time.
Okay, so we have the major Richard Starr Act fixing the offset penalty, the $10,000 expansion for catastrophic injuries, and the permanent structural boost to DIC. All three of these would be life-altering.
Truly life-altering.
They all have wide support. So what is the roadblock? Why are they just sitting in committee?
The roadblock comes down to a very strict congressional funding rule known as PYGO. It stands for Pay As You Go. These three bills were grouped together into a larger legislative package called the Take Care of America's Veterans Act.
Okay, PAYGO, how does that work?
Under PGO rules, Congress cannot simply authorize new spending of this magnitude because they think it's a good idea. They are legally required to find an equal amount of savings somewhere else in the federal budget to offset the cost. You can't just print the money for this. You have to balance the ledger so you don't explode the deficit.
So when they write a bill to spend money, the Congressional Budget Office acts like the accountant. They score the bill, and if it costs money, Congress has to find the money somewhere else.
Precisely. And this is where the mechanics get incredibly complex. The proposed solution to fund these massive benefits relies on the VA's upcoming changes to the medical rating schedule, specifically regarding how they will rate tinnitus and sleep apnea in the future.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yes. The VA is scheduled to finalize new, generally stricter rating criteria for those two conditions in April of 2027. Forecasting models suggest that by changing how they rate those conditions for future claims, meaning fewer veterans will get the higher percentage ratings for those specific ailments, the federal government will save over $50 billion over the next decade.
Let me see if I have this right. Lawmakers are looking at that forecasted $50 billion in future savings from a stricter rating criteria, and they're saying, aha, there is the ledger offset we need to satisfy the PAYGO rules and fund the major Richard Starr Act today.
That is the exact strategy. But here's the procedural catch that is stalling everything. If the VA simply implements those rating changes independently through their own internal regulatory process, the money saved essentially evaporates.
Wait, what do you mean it evaporates?
It just gets reabsorbed back into the general treasury to fund whatever the government wants down the line. However, if Congress steps in and formally legislates those rating changes, if they pass a law mandating those specific criteria, they are legally allowed to claim those projected savings on their ledger and redirect them.
You know, I have an analogy for this. It's like finding a $50 bill in the laundry.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So if the government just handles this internally, that $50 goes back into the general household budget to pay for the electric bill or groceries or who knows what,
Yeah.
it vanishes into the ether of government spending.
Exactly. It's just gone.
But if Congress legislates it, they can take that $50 bill, slap a sticky note on it that says, this is strictly for the Veterans Fund, and use it to pay for the catastrophic injury expansion.
That is a perfect analogy. By codifying the changes into law, Congress gets to put that sticky note on the $50 billion. They can ear tag the money.
So why don't they just do it?
Well, right now, there is deep hesitation and debate in Congress about whether they should codify the VA's rating changes. So the bills are stalled. Lawmakers are trying to figure out if they should use the sleep apnea and tinnitus savings, or if they need to scour the budget to find another multi-billion-dollar offset somewhere else.
Wow.
Yeah, and until they solve that PA-Go puzzle, those three major increases remain entirely on hold.
It is incredibly frustrating to see such vital support for combat-injured and catastrophically disabled veterans tied up in accounting rules, but, I mean, that is the stark reality of how the legislative process works. And that is why it is so important to stay informed on the mechanics behind the headlines.
Absolutely.
So let's distill all of this down to the core essentials you need to walk away with today. First, look toward December 1st for the baseline defense. Automatic cost of living adjustments are coming for your base disability compensation, VA pension, DIC, and SMC. This is all about maintaining your purchasing power against inflation.
That's right.
Second, look toward October 1st for forward momentum. If you or your dependents are utilizing educational and training stipends under Chapter 35 or VR&E, those adjustments happen much sooner, tied to the academic year.
And remember to budget correctly for Chapter 35.
Yes, very important. And third, keep a close eye on the stalled future. Massive structural pay corrections, the major Richard Starr Act, the $10K bump for catastrophic injuries, and the extra DIC percentages are pending. But they are not guaranteed. They rely entirely on Congress resolving the complex PA-YGO funding puzzle we just unpacked.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is, which leads us to one practical action you can take right now, today. If you receive the clothing allowance, do not put it off. Double-check your paperwork immediately and ensure it is filed before the rapidly approaching August 1st deadline.
Do it today.
And if you have dependents using Chapter 35 for the upcoming fall semester, sit down with them tonight. Check their enrollment status and make absolutely sure they understand that while the monthly stipend is coming directly to their bank account, the tuition bill is still their responsibility to pay.
If I can leave everyone with one final, perhaps provocative thought to mull over, it's this. When we look at the stall legislation, we are witnessing a profound systemic balancing act.
What do you mean?
Well, to fund massive, undeniably necessary increases for catastrophically injured veterans today, the system is attempting to utilize projected savings created by reducing the ratings for sleep apnea and tinnitus for future veterans in 2027.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It forces us to ask difficult questions about how a finite budget handles the infinite debt owed to those who served. It is a stark reminder of the immense complexities inherent in funding veteran benefits.
That is a very heavy, very real thought to end on. We want to hear from you on this. What are your thoughts on that balancing act? Have you experienced the frustration of the Wounded Warrior tax or navigated the budgeting realities of Chapter 35 payments? Share your questions or personal experiences with these specific benefits in the comments below.
We read them, and it really helps the whole community.
It does. And please remember to subscribe, like the video, and share it with your fellow veterans and military families so we can ensure everyone gets the information they need. Thank you for watching Veteran Briefing. Take care, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode.